Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today at the University of Dominguez Hills, where today we're going to be holding the last debate before voters hit the poll for the general election next week. Joining us today is Senator Oreo and Senator Lasagna. Senator Oreo is most known for her work in Oreo sports equipment and has been serving as a New York Senator for the last 5 years. And Senator Lasagna is the former Secretary of State and current Hawaiian Senator. And today we will be debating their differences, and this is the last chance that voters will have to see the key differences between the candidates before they decide the next President of the United States. As always, I'm Valerie Almada. And the current format for this debate is we have questions from various users of all demographics. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond, and their opponent will have 30 seconds to rebuttal. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Senator Lasagna, this first question is for you. Now, in the past, your critics have accused you of stifling the growth of the economy by voting for bills that would call for more regulations on corporations such as ExxonMobil. What is your response to such criticisms?
The world is in a state of global warming, and it is because humans put it there. I voted for a bill that would hold corporations responsible to their harmful actions. I believe in creating jobs for the American people, but I also believe that there is a way to achieve that without damaging the earth beyond repair.
Well, we need to focus on the bigger question. What about the people? The increases of prices will cause people to go crazy. Even though global warming affects our health, we should find alternatives in order to ensure environmental safety.
Senator Oreo, this question comes from New York. How do you think your position as a businesswoman has prepared you to run a country?
I am definitely pro-business. I am currently the owner of Oreo Sports Equipment, stationed in Arizona. I believe that people are able to flourish through businesses, and it will help them open doors into becoming a more successful individual. Owning my own business has taught me many useful skills, such as responsibility, and I am planning to use these skills in order to make America a better place.
To rebuttal what my opponent Oreo has said, I believe that she will be too busy owning her business that she will not be able to give her full attention to the American people. With that being said, I am for pro-environment and care for that. However, I do believe that businesses help people flourish. We need someone to give these individuals attention, and it's definitely not Oreo.
We'll be back after a few words from our sponsors. When we return, we'll be taking video questions from people submitted from all over the country.
When you get nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, even diarrhea. Hey, there's Pepto-Bismol. Nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea. Yay, Pepto-Bismol! For 5 different stomach problems, Pink does more than you think.
Good evening. My name is Cristobal Escobar, and I am your political correspondent with submitted video questions from all over the U.S.
As of right now, what is the most urgent issue in the U.S.?
The most urgent issue in the U.S. currently is safety. We live in a world where everyone is concerned for their safety wherever they seem to go. Recently, there has been terrorist attacks in Belgium. This just causes the U.S. to be more alert and cautious. Along with this comes concern and terror to simply go outside. The reality is that we aren't always safe, but I can assure you that I will always be actively seeking safety for schools, businesses, airports, stores, malls, and every place here in America.
Continue. Instead of having short, publicly funded political campaigns with limited and/or free advertising, the U.S. has long political campaigns in which candidates are big bucks for advertising. They are therefore forced to spend much of their time fundraising, which is to say, seeking bribes. All American politicians are basically on the take, though many are honorable people. They are forced into by the system. House Minority Leader John Boehner has actually just handed out cash on the floor of the House, from the tobacco industry to other representatives.
Since the people are sovereign under our Constitution, how do you specifically propose to restore power to the people in their various roles as voters, taxpayers, workers, and consumers?
For us as Americans, we should be able to declare voting as a national holiday. What this would do is give all citizens the opportunity to vote on a specific day without the struggle of having to worry about missing work or picking up your kids from school. This will help gain power on choosing the right candidates, which will ultimately show the restoration on the power of the people.
In order to restore power to voters, what can be done is to eliminate voter ID laws. This will specifically target minorities because it gives them a chance to actually vote. As we all know, DMVs can be hectic and make it almost impossible to get a hold of an ID. Eliminating this law will cause more individuals to get the opportunity to vote without having to go through the whole struggle of actually obtaining an ID. America needs the American people to actually vote, and this will ensure that more people's voices are going to be heard.
Daily, millions of citizens in the United States are bombarded with public announcements about aspiring presidential candidates. In the last 10 months, 100,000 campaign ads have been shown in 1,500 primetime shows in 48 states.
In cable news, for example, it's largely based on hate. That is, Fox News Channel's message is that Republicans need to hate Democrats, and MSNBC's message is that Democrats need to hate Republicans. And this extinguishes the possibility of meaningful dialogue between people. It imprisons voters.
The hypothesis that this election will be the most expensive in the history of the U.S. is thus far very likely. Less than 2 weeks away from the Iowa caucus, over $100 million have been spent on publicity, and the campaign is only at the beginning.
I think that with the way things are at the beginning of this year, it is highly feasible that this will be the most expensive campaign in the history of the United States. It will be difficult to put a final amount on this because that number will depend on how the campaign will evolve, especially for the Republicans, with the amount of candidates they currently have.
If the election occurred today, the winner would likely be the candidate with the most media exposure and who has the most wealth. Donald Trump has raced to the top in all polls, mostly due to the media's criticism of his incendiary comments, which have granted him more on-air time.
This has helped candidates who have said crazy things. There has been no fact-checking from journalists, and I think it hurts not only the people, but public discourse.
This exposure based on criticism has pushed aside the true debate of policy proposals between the candidates.
Mr. Trump, thank you. You're paying attention to one thing because that's what they're telling you to pay attention to. That's what they want you to be outraged with, because all the other sneaky things that they're doing behind your back, you're not going to know.
Before this president
In the 2012 elections, $1 billion were spent on the transmission of 100 campaign commercials in key states. Bianca Perez, Telesur, Washington, D.C.